Every single day, roughly $7.5 trillion zip across the global foreign exchange markets alone. $7.5 trillion. Just let that massive number sink in for a second. We all work for money, we meticulously save it up, and, we spend it every single day just to live our lives. It's literally the absolute lifeblood of modern human civilization. But as you're watching all these transactions happen, swiping a card, tapping your phone, seeing your paycheck hit your account, have you ever actually stopped to ask yourself how the machinery of it all works? Today, in this explainer, we're completely breaking down the architects of the global financial engine. And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Who actually controls the world's money? I know, it sounds like the setup to some crazy mystery thriller, right? But it really is the ultimate financial whodunit. So we're going to investigate this together, step by step, and honestly, the answer is going to surprise you. Okay, let's dive into this. Whenever wealth feels super concentrated or the economy gets a little wobbly, people instantly start pointing fingers. Are the strings being pulled publicly by big governments and massive commercial banks, or are they secretly manipulated in the shadows by billionaires and secret organizations? Well, to actually solve this, we can't just guess. We have to deconstruct the very foundation of the evidence. Section 1. The illusion of money. What is it really? So at its absolute core, money is simply a tool that people trust to exchange goods and services. That's literally it. Because ever since the world moved away from the gold standard, our modern currencies aren't actually backed by shiny metals sitting in some heavily guarded vault somewhere. Whether we're talking about physical cash in your wallet, the balance showing up on your banking app, or digital payments zooming across the globe, its entire value exists for one reason, and one reason only: because we trust it. Trust is the invisible architecture holding this whole shebang together. In fact, there's a saying, without trust, money is just paper or numbers on a screen. Think about it. If society suddenly woke up tomorrow and stopped believing in the value of the US dollar, the euro, or the yen, all those bills would just be colorful, useless pieces of paper. Your bank account, just meaningless glowing pixels. So the control of money is fundamentally tied to the control of that collective trust. Section 2. How money is made. Busting the money printer myth. Now, the prevailing myth out there is that governments are just sitting in a basement printing all the cash whenever they want. But the reality is far more fascinating. A country's central bank and its commercial banks are actually the ones managing and creating the money supply. Your government doesn't just fire up a giant printing press every time it needs to pay for something. Instead, central banks play a massive foundational role. They manage the overall money supply of the nation, they decide the really important financial policies that dictate how the whole economy flows, and critically, they set the interest rates. By tweaking those interest rates, they make it either cheaper or more expensive for you to borrow money. It essentially acts like a giant throttle on the entire nation's economic engine. But here's where the mechanics get totally wild. When you go and take out a bank loan, the bank doesn't just go down and fetch pre-existing cash from a dusty vault. Nope. Through the modern magic of commercial lending, that loan actually types new money into existence right there in your account. The simple act of lending actually increases the total amount of money circulating out there in the economy. Crazy, right? And this brilliantly illustrates why commercial banks have such massive influence over economic growth. They aren't just passively holding your savings, they're active participants in creating the money supply itself. If banks lend more money enters the economy, driving growth. But if they stop lending, the money supply tightens right up and the whole economy slows down. Section 3. The Almighty Dollar. Investigating the heavyweight champion. Now let's zoom out to the global stage. Globally, the US dollar is, without question, the world's most widely used international currency. While other currencies absolutely play their parts, the US dollar really serves as the heavy anchor of the global financial sea. And that dominance really just comes down to pure utility. When nations buy and sell goods across borders, they predominantly price them in dollars. Furthermore, global oil purchases, the energy that literally runs the planet, are overwhelmingly conducted in US dollars. And finally, foreign exchange reserves, which is basically the emergency backup money held by countries all around the world, well, those are heavily stocked with dollars too. This immense, practical, everyday usage gives the United States incredibly significant influence in global finance. However, we absolutely must be precise here. The US does not control every country's money. It's a dominant force, sure, but each individual nation still maintains its own central bank, and they set their own domestic monetary policies. So while the global system is highly interconnected, it is definitely not a unilateral dictatorship run from Washington. Section 4. The Web of Financial Power. The Final Reveal. So what is the ultimate truth here? Well, no single person, company, or secret organization controls all the world's money. I know that might really disappoint folks who love a good conspiracy theory about a shadowy puppet master pulling all the strings. But the reality is way more complex, and frankly, I think it's far more interesting. Now, what's really fascinating here is that instead of a single puppet master, power is completely distributed across a massive ecosystem, and each major player has a distinct role. Central banks manage the national currencies, governments create the broad financial policies and laws, commercial banks, like we talked about, provide the loans and financial services that actually keep the gears turning. Large investment firms influence the financial markets by moving massive amounts of capital around, and international institutions step in to help countries deal with severe economic challenges. So you see, power is shared. It's this massive, incredibly intricate ecosystem. Together, all of these institutions collaborate, they compete, and they interact to shape exactly how money moves around the world. It's an ongoing balancing act of immense proportions. Section 5. Navigating the Financial Engine. Why this matters to you. Because here's the thing. This complete global network doesn't just stop at big institutions or massive corporations. It actually includes millions of everyday people making daily financial decisions. It includes you. When you decide to save, when you take out a loan for a car, or even when you just choose to trust the digits on your screen and buy a cup of coffee, you are actively participating in this very network. Understanding that no one single person controls it, but rather that it's an interconnected web of trust and mechanics, well, it helps you see the economy in an entirely different, much clearer light. So the real question is, how will understanding the system change the financial decisions you make today? Now that you know exactly how the engine works under the hood, how money is made, how power is distributed, and how your trust is the ultimate currency, how are you going to navigate your own finances differently? I really hope this explainer has empowered you with that knowledge. If you enjoyed this dive into the machinery and you want more straightforward, simple explanations about money, investing, and the global economy, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.